Oh geez, oh my, there I go again. You don't score enough, I mean no offense.
Yo, what's up YouTube? It's your boy Moose and welcome back to the channel. And ladies and gentlemen, the NHL season is of course just right around the corner as it begins on October 10th. And with the recent release of NHL 24, I thought it would be a good idea to head into franchise mode here in NHL and see what the game will predict will happen in the upcoming season. And I'm not going to be using any custom rosters, I'm just going to use the online roster that EA Sports has provided us here, as I want to see what NHL 24 predicts is going to happen without changing anything up. But alright guys, without further ado, let's head into franchise mode and see what NHL 24 will predict is going to happen in the upcoming season. Alright, so of course, we actually have to choose a team that we are going to control for this simulation. And I'm obviously not going to make any moves or anything like that for the team that we control. I just want to be an observer for this video. So I kind of want to pick a team that I think isn't going to make a big impact this year, a team that will most likely miss the playoffs. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the Philadelphia Flyers. I don't think there's a ton of people out there who would disagree with me that the Philadelphia Flyers probably aren't going to be making the playoffs this year. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and choose the Flyers.
I done the math. Checks out.
So I'm going to be turning owner mode off. It doesn't make any sense to have that on for this. I'm also just going to go ahead and turn off player morale. Computer trades, we're going to keep that on. I definitely want to see what kind of trades the computer makes during this simulation, and everything else I'm going to leave it as it is. And I'm going to go ahead and just leave all of this the same. There's no real reason to change anything, as of course we are just going to be simming through the one season. All right, so here we are in franchise mode at the start of the regular season, and before we start simming through this season and taking a look at all the results, I do want to check one thing out really quickly. I want to go ahead and check out free agency. So you've got some decent players sitting here in free agency. Of course, you got Jonathan Toews at 83 overall. Of course, in real life, it doesn't sound like he's going to play this year. So I'm kind of hoping no one signs him. And then you've got guys like Alex Edler, Zach Parise, Sam Gagner, Noah Gregor, Maxime Comtois, guys like that. However, Patrick Kane is not sitting here in free agency. So that means someone signed Patrick Kane. So let's go ahead and check out who it was. All right, so Gadjevich, Mark Sykes, Paul Stastny, Jamie Drysdale resigns. And oh my goodness, of course, the Chicago Blackhawks are the one to re-sign Patrick Kane. So Patrick Kane is returned to Chicago on a one-year deal. So that is the first major prediction here in today's video from NHL 24. And they're also going to apparently sign Phil Kessel to a one-year deal as well.
What is happening?
So those are definitely some pretty interesting signings from Chicago here to start our video. But yeah, other than that, there's not really anything notable here as far as signings are concerned in the preseason. All right, so with that out of the way, we now know Patrick Kane has re-signed with the Chicago Blackhawks. It's definitely going to be very interesting to see how Connor Bedard does in his rookie season. How does Erik Karlsson do on the Pittsburgh Penguins? Will there be a surprise team that makes it to the playoffs and makes a surprise run to the Cup? I'm definitely interested to see how things play out here in NHL 24. So all right, I'm going to go ahead and start to sim through this season, and I will see you guys at the trade deadline where we'll go over all the notable trades that get made. All right, so the trade deadline has just wrapped up, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the biggest moves that were made here at the trade deadline. We actually had a ton of moves made here at the deadline, so let's go ahead and start at the beginning. And oh my goodness, how about that? The Chicago Blackhawks end up trading Patrick Kane here at the trade deadline, as the Buffalo Sabres will acquire Patrick Kane as well as a 2025 third round pick, as they will send a 2024 first round pick to Chicago, along with prospects Isaac Rosen and Alexander Kisakov.
Hot damn!
So that was a massive trade to start the trade deadline here. And Patrick Kane going to Buffalo actually makes a lot of sense to me. Patrick Kane, of course, was born in Buffalo, so he has obvious connections to the city. And Buffalo is definitely one of the best young and talented up-and-coming teams in the league. So if they get off to a really good start this year in real life, I could actually see Patrick Kane signing a one-year deal to go and play in Buffalo for a cup run this year. Taking a look at the other notable trades that were made, there was a big trade between a couple of Pacific Division rivals, as the LA Kings picked up first and second round picks in 2025, as well as goaltender Adin Hill from the Vegas Golden Knights, in exchange for centerman Philip Deneau, defenseman Matt Roy, as well as two others. So another massive trade there involving a first round pick. And then I don't know how I missed this, guys. So apparently Jonathan Toews signed with the San Jose Sharks, which is just not realistic whatsoever. And then the San Jose Sharks ended up trading Jonathan Toews here at the trade deadline to the Carolina Hurricanes, along with forwards Alexander Barabanov and Ryan Carpenter. here, as the Sharks picked up a couple of second-round picks, as well as goaltending prospect Nikita Guam. I was kind of hoping that Jonathan Toews wasn't going to sign anywhere, just because it doesn't seem like he's going to be playing this year in real life. But here in this NHL 24 simulation and prediction video, Jonathan Toews ends up signing with San Jose and then gets traded to Carolina here at the deadline. The San Jose Sharks then continue to sell here at the trade deadline, as they end up sending Anthony Duclair and a 2025 third to Pittsburgh in exchange for forward Brendan Yeager, a 2024 second round pick, as well as goaltending prospect Joel Blunkfist. Then we've got another trade here involving a first round pick, as the New Jersey Devils acquire Matt Dumba, Travis Dermott, and Michael Karlsson in exchange for a 2024 first round pick, as well as right wing prospect Cam Squires. The Los Angeles Kings also continue to sell here at the trade deadline after they traded Philip Deneau, as they will also be trading Trevor Moore and Victor Arvidsson to the Boston Bruins in exchange for first and third round picks in 2025 and prospect Luke Toporowski. And the Buffalo Sabres weren't done adding here at the trade deadline, as they end up picking up defenseman Mackenzie Weegar from the Calgary Flames in exchange for a 2025 first round pick and a 2024 third round pick, as they are clearly loading up for a Stanley Cup run this year. The Boston Bruins then made a pretty big move for their blue line, as they added defenseman Adam Larsson from the Seattle Kraken in exchange for goaltender Jeremy Swayman and a 2024 sixth round pick, as the Bruins are also clearly loading up for a cup run, as they've now acquired Adam Larsson, Trevor Moore, and Victor Arvidsson. And then in our final move to wrap up the trade deadline, the Ottawa Senators picked up second and third round picks in 2024, as well as winger Axel Johnson-Falby from the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for Dominic Kubalik, as well as two fourth rounders, one in 2024 and one in 2025. So yeah, a lot of really solid trades here at the deadline. I think that was at least 4 or 5 trades that we saw that involved a first rounder, and it'll be really interesting to see if any of these moves end up having an impact as we get into the playoffs. So alright, with the NHL trade deadline now done, I'm gonna go ahead and sim through the rest of the regular season, so I'll see you guys at the end of the season / the start of the playoffs. Alright, so I've just finished up simming through the rest of the regular season, so now let's go ahead and check out the standings and all the scoring leaders and see how things played out this year. So taking a look at the standings, the Florida Panthers ended up being the top team in the league this year, as they finished with a 53-21-8 record with 114 points, as they will end up winning the President's Trophy this year. The New York Rangers finished in second place in the league standings, as they finished with 104 points with a record of 49-27-6. The Devils were third with 103 points and 48 wins, and the Carolina Hurricanes were the fourth and final team to reach over 100 points, as they finished with 47 wins for 101 points. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning round out our top 5 teams in the league this year, as they finished with 99 points and 48 wins. And how about the Buffalo Sabres, who of course added both Patrick Kane and Mackenzie Weegar at the trade deadline, as they end up finishing 6th in the league with 46 wins and 99 points. And the Vancouver Canucks actually finished as the top team in the Western Conference, as they finished 7th in the league with 98 points and 45 wins. So that is definitely a surprise that NHL 24 is predicting the Vancouver Canucks to be the best team in the Western Conference this year. I'm not so sure about that.
Hey, now wait a second.
Taking a look at the very bottom of the standings, no real big surprises here in the bottom 3, as the Philadelphia Flyers end up being the worst team in the league, as they finish with 25 wins and 61 points. Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks end up finishing in second last place, as they finish with 30 wins and 70 points. And then my favorite team, the San Jose Sharks, end up finishing in third last place, as they also finish with 30 wins with 73 points.
That's terrible.
And then it's pretty surprising to see teams like Washington, Seattle, and Ottawa here at the bottom of the standings, as you got to imagine that Ottawa Senators fans have much higher expectations for their team going into this season. And after such a great season last year where they made the playoffs, it would be a huge letdown for Seattle to finish in 28th like NHL 24 is predicting here. I definitely don't think that's going to happen in real life, but it could actually be fairly difficult for Seattle to replicate their success from last year, as now they're not going to catch anyone by surprise. Everyone is expecting Seattle to be pretty solid. Florida, of course, ends up winning the Atlantic Division. The New York Rangers take the Metro, Minnesota takes home the Central Division, and then the Vancouver Canucks, of course, take the Pacific Division. Taking a look at the top scorers during the regular season, Braden Point ends up leading the entire league in scoring with 106 points, as he puts up 27 goals and 79 assists, as he ends up beating out Connor McDavid, who finishes in second place in the scoring race with 43 goals and 60 assists for 103 points. Mika Zibanejad was tied for third place with 102 points, as Tage Thompson also finished with 102 points. And then Austin Matthews rounds out your top 5 scorers, as he was the 5th and final player to end up with 100 or more points. Nikita Kucherov ended up leading the league in goals as he finished with 56. So a couple of Tampa Bay Lightning end up at the top of the scoring race, as Braden Point ends up leading the league in points, while Kucherov ends up leading the league in goals. Austin Matthews was your only other 50 goal scorer, as he ended up with 50 on the dot, while Kyle Connor put up 49, while Stamkos and McDavid put up 44 and 43 goals respectively. Taking a look at the top rookie scorers during the season, I don't think this is going to surprise anybody. Connor Bedard ended up leading all rookies in scoring, as he finished with 29 goals, 48 assists, and 77 points. And I think that's actually a fairly realistic prediction for Connor Bedard this year. I would personally put his over-under for points at about 75, so I think 77 is a fairly realistic result for Bedard, and I think 29 goals is also a really realistic number for him this year, as I definitely think that he has 30 goal potential during his rookie season.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Marco Rossi from the Minnesota Wild ended up being second in rookie scoring, as he finished with 33 points with 11 goals and 22 assists. And then Jacob Pelletier, he ends up being third in rookie scoring, as he finishes at 25 points with 6 goals and 19 assists. And that's a tough one for Flames fans to see, as Pelletier of course got hurt during the preseason, and it sounds like he's going to be out for a while. And taking a look at our top goaltenders this season, Andrei Vasilevskiy ends up finishing at the top, as he finishes with a record of 42, 21, and 2, with 3 shutouts, a .915 save percentage, and a 2.86 goals against. But of course, as we all know by now, Andrei Vasilevskiy is going to be out for the next few months as he recovers from back surgery. Stuart Skinner was also one of the top goaltenders this year, as he finished with a record of 40, 26, and 6. Not the greatest numbers at .905 and .301, but I think the Edmonton Oilers would take that if they could get numbers like that out of Stuart Skinner this year. And then Igor Shesterkin was lights out for the Rangers, as he also finished with 40 wins with a record of 40, 21, and 4, with 5 shutouts, a .922 save percentage, and a 2.61 goals against. So I definitely think that the Vezina Trophy is going to come down to these 3 guys: Igor Shesterkin, Stuart Skinner, and Andrei Vasilevskiy. And I also just wanted to quickly see Erik Karlsson on the Pittsburgh Penguins to see how he did, and he definitely had a very solid season, as he played in all 82 games for Pittsburgh, putting up 75 points with 19 goals and 56 assists to lead the team in scoring. And they did end up making the playoffs. So yeah, I think between them making the playoffs and Erik Karlsson having a very good, healthy season, I think most Penguins fans would agree they'd be pretty happy with that.
Damn straight.
And then the other guy that I wanted to see here is Alex DeBrincat, who is of course now a member of the Detroit Red Wings. And he had a pretty solid year. He ended up playing in 74 games, putting up 67 points with 35 goals and 32 assists. So that's a pretty nice bounce back season from Alex DeBrincat, as he gets his Red Wing career off to a pretty good start. Unfortunately though, for the Red Wings, the Yzer plan will have to wait another season to truly start to take off, as the Red Wings ended up missing the playoffs here in our NHL 24 simulation. And I almost forgot, but we gotta check out this guy, as Patrick Kane had a fantastic season. As we take a look at his split numbers, he ended up with 73 points in 63 games played with Chicago this year, and then he put up 15 points in 18 games played with Buffalo, as he ended up putting up 88 total points in 81 games played. And Buffalo of course made the playoffs, so they'll definitely be a team to watch here. And just kind of for jokes, Jacob Middleton ended up leading the league in penalty minutes this year with 186, while Corey Perry did a fantastic job protecting Connor Bedard this season, as he ended up being second in PIMS with 122. And Brad Marchand ended up leading the league in hits with 192, as he barely beat out Ryan O'Reilly, who finished with 191. And when we take a look at Ryan O'Reilly's career numbers for hits, I don't know in what world NHL 24 is predicting Ryan O'Reilly to finish with 191 hits. That's just insane.
That's insane!
Alright, so those were all the standings and the scoring leaders here in our simulation. So now before we start to simulate through the playoffs, let's quickly take a look at our first round matchups going into the playoffs. So in the Western Conference, you've got the Winnipeg Jets going up against the Colorado Avalanche. The Minnesota Wild will be going up against the Dallas Stars. We've also got the Battle of Alberta here in round number 1, as the Edmonton Oilers will be taking on the Calgary Flames. And then we've also got the Vancouver Canucks going up against the Vegas Golden Knights. Taking a look at our round 1 Eastern Conference matchups, you've got the New Jersey Devils going up against the Carolina Hurricanes. The New York Rangers will be going up against Erik Karlsson, Sidney Crosby, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Tampa Bay Lightning, who have leading scorer Braden Point, leading goal getter Nikita Kucherov, as well as the wins leader for goaltenders in Andrei Vasilevsky, who will be going up against Patrick Kane and the Buffalo Sabres. And in our final matchup here in the Eastern Conference and in round number 1, you've got the President's Trophy winning Florida Panthers going up against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So those are your playoff matchups here in our NHL 24 simulation. So now I'm going to go ahead and sim through the playoffs, and then I will show you guys all the results, who wins the Stanley Cup, all the award winners, everything like that. So all right, I'm going to go ahead and sim, and I will see you guys at the end of the Stanley Cup playoffs. All right, guys, I've just wrapped up simming through the entire playoffs, and would you believe it? NHL 24 is predicting the Vancouver Canucks to win the Stanley Cup this season. I definitely did not have the Vancouver Canucks as one of my teams that I thought would maybe win here in our simulation today, but NHL 24 has spoken. The Vancouver Canucks are your Stanley Cup champions.
I like it, but how?
So this was a pretty wild simulation here, as the Canucks actually ended up facing Patrick Kane and the Buffalo Sabres in the finals, as the Canucks wound up winning the Stanley Cup in a thrilling 7-game series. And I think it's fair to say there probably aren't too many people out there who would have predicted this as the Stanley Cup final matchup. And it was a really nice try from the Buffalo Sabres, as they made huge moves at the trade deadline and ended up being only 1 win away from winning the Stanley Cup. The Pittsburgh Penguins also had a really solid Stanley Cup run here with Erik Karlsson, but they ended up losing in the Eastern Conference Finals to Buffalo in 7 games. So all in all, a very interesting sim here, guys. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Taking a look at the top scorers during the playoffs, Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes ended up leading the playoffs in scoring, as they both finished with 27 points each to help Vancouver claim the title. And then Tage Thompson was your next leading scorer, as he ended up putting up 22 points in 27 games for Buffalo. Taking a look at the awards, the Vancouver Canucks of course won the Stanley Cup, while the Florida Panthers of course won the President's Trophy. Braden Point ends up taking home the Art Ross Trophy, as he of course ended up leading the league in scoring at the end of the regular season, and he also took home the Hart Memorial Trophy as the league's MVP. I think as far as real life's concerned, anyone other than McDavid winning these 2 awards would be considered fairly surprising. Adam Fox ends up taking home the James Norris Trophy as the league's top defenseman this year, and Braden Point takes home another award as he ends up winning the Lady Byng Trophy, and unsurprisingly, Connor Bedard ended up winning the Calder Memorial Trophy as the league's top rookie, as he ended up leading all rookies in scoring by a fairly wide margin, as he ended up finishing with 77 points and 29 goals. Elias Pettersson ends up taking home the Conn Smythe as the playoff MVP, as he helps lead the Vancouver Canucks to the Stanley Cup, and Igor Shesterkin takes home the Vezina Trophy as the top goaltender this year, so he ends up beating out Stuart Skinner and Andrei Vasilevsky to claim the award. Ryan O'Reilly ends up winning the Selke Trophy as the league's top defensive forward, and our final award, Nikita Kucherov ends up taking home the Richard Trophy, as he of course ended up leading the entire league in goals, finishing with 56. So yeah guys, that is gonna do it for today's video. I wanted to see what NHL 24 was gonna predict happened this year, and we definitely got some very interesting results. Patrick Kane ended up signing with the Chicago Blackhawks, only to end up getting dealt at the trade deadline to Buffalo, and Buffalo did end up making it to the Stanley Cup final, but they of course ended up losing to the Vancouver Canucks, who were our surprise winners here in today's video. Connor Bedard ended up having a really solid rookie season, as he ends up putting up nearly a point per game with 77 points, as he of course ends up taking home the Calder Trophy, and the Pittsburgh Penguins ended up making it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals with Erik Karlsson on the team, which if you're a Pittsburgh fan, you have to absolutely love to see. But yeah, like I said, that's gonna end things for today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching and found it entertaining, and let me know down in the comments who you think is gonna win the Stanley Cup this year, and any other predictions that you might have. But alright guys, have a good one, and until next time, Moose out.